Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Check out the podcast below in the description as well.
All right, let's talk a little bit about 49ers Rammies, John. Do you know who leads the actually, I'll put it this way. The top three teams in the league in sacks. Number three, the Philadelphia Eagles, who the Niners played a couple weeks ago, and they sure looked like one of the best sack teams in the NFL, right?
Highly paid defensive line.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are second.
Good unit. Yep.
They're fantastic up front. They have
Yeah.
20. So actually they're T1, tied with the LA Rams, who the San
Yep.
Francisco 49ers play Sunday Night Football. We'll get to it later in the podcast. Somehow only 3.5-point underdogs. Because if I think about this game, two things come to mind, right? How are the Niners going to cover the Rams? And Emmanuel Mosley was a full participant in practice Thursday. But how
I do think we're talking about Emmanuel Mosley like he's Deion Sanders coming back. That's the vibe I
he
got
is
on
the
social
Deion
media.
Sanders of this unit.
Relative to Brian Allen,
Give him 21 and a bandana.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two is how are they going to protect? Those to me feel like the two big questions when I think about this game. Do you agree with that, or is there something else?
I would say 100%. The number one thing I think about is just guys being wide open. And in general, like Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Higbee, Everett, those guys just get thrown the ball a lot from Jared Goff. And they feel open when they're playing good teams, let alone this team, which is going to be very difficult to cover. I just look at the best way to negate a pass rush, and Kyle talked about this, is to run the football. Just run the football. Because when you run the football, and this is when the Rams have been really good over the last 3 or 4 years, they don't feel that pass happy. They run to pass. And I think often when your offensive linemen are struggling, which the 49ers are, you got to run the football. And Kyle talked about that on Monday. We got to run the football. They just have to find a way to be more productive that way. Because I do not think, like, if you say they get in a shootout, I don't like their chances with Jimmy Garoppolo. The way he's playing right now, how could you? Right?
Yeah, right. But to me, it's not just Jimmy. It's Jimmy. It's the protection, and it's how could you match them in a shootout given how good they've been offensively. But yeah, and given how bad. It wasn't just that he looked bad, it's that he was under a lot of good football word. I don't hear anybody else ever say it. Duress. Under duress. Never even calls like, how you doing? Oh, man, under a lot of duress at work today. But pass rush puts you under duress. And McGlinchey, we had hoped that by this time the Niners would look so good offensively that they'd be giving out Trent Williams extensions. And instead this week...
I'd pump the brakes on that one, wouldn't you?
And I still think he's a good player. The McGlinchey thing, McGlinchey told the media that he thought he was playing better than 30-second clips that people put on social media would indicate. But you can't deny that right now they are. It's look, believe him or not, like you told me, Jimmy was a full participant in practice on Monday, so his ankle's fine. But one of the things Kyle Shanahan said after the game on Sunday was actually said at halftime, we're protecting him, insinuating he's not 100%. But part of that is literally they were not protecting him.
Yeah. I listen, we've interviewed Mike McGlinchey. He is like...
Had him on the podcast.
I think he's everything you look for in terms of character, work ethic, all that stuff. That's why he's named a captain. But the thing about the NFL, it's a pretty black and white league when it comes to your play, right? Like eventually all that stuff, it gets to a point like, are you good enough? And I think I'd push back on Mike when he was calling everyone lazy analysis and stuff. Like, Mike, you've been a huge liability in pass protection. And ultimately, like why Lane Johnson and why Mitchell Schwartz, why those guys are become highly paid right tackles, Conklin, is because they can pass protect. Like I can find a lot of right tackles that can run block, especially in this scheme. Like I need to feel good. I drafted you 9th overall. Is it fair to say, like, I didn't draft you 9th overall to be a great run blocker? That was just part of the package. I expected you to protect whoever the fuck my quarterback was. And I've seen too many plays. Again, I'm rooting for McGlinchey, but you get drafted 9th overall, like, the standard's pretty high, guy. Like, I need you to be, like, a Pro Bowler.
Also, they picked him right ahead of... Sorry to jump on you there. They picked him right ahead of Colton Miller, who's playing left tackle for the Raiders, right?
Yeah, he's been a much better player this year than him as a pass blocker. And for a couple years, it was like Colton Miller was really bad. McGlinchey was good. And I remember talking to a buddy this year, right, for a good team. He's like, God, I just watched the Niners They played the Cardinals at week 1. He's like, McGlinchey looked awful. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I just think athletically he looks kind of stiff. And when you're not a smooth athlete, when I put you in a situation where you're one-on-one with all these great pass rushers, and what do we talk about forever with pass rushers? They line up now more often on the right side than they do on the left side, right? Because you just go over the weakest offensive lineman. It's your left tackle for most teams going to be better than your right tackle. And I see a guy that leads the team in pressures, giving up. And I think it's a problem right now. Now, it's only October 15th. Maybe he's dealing with something. But he's got to be better, guy, because they have a fifth-year option at the end of this year to pick up. Again, they drafted him 9th, right? They didn't. It'd be one thing. It's like, this third-round pick. It's going to be up and downs. 9th overall. Well, 9th.
Yeah, part of it is when it's a third-round pick, you have no problem looking for upgrades. Even though even a third is a valuable pick, right? When it's a first-round pick, you're hoping it's Joe Staley. That's what you want, right?
Yeah.
This is my guy for the next 10 years. And even if it's the next 8, it's going to be a really good 8. I'm never going to have to consider what else we're going to do.
I just think the Niners have drafted offensive linemen. Obviously, those Harbaugh years like Upati,
Anthony
Staley, Anthony Davis, where you just kind of know right away. Again, like part of being an offensive lineman, I'd say it's a little like a corner. Corners always push back. Like, I can have a great game, but I get beat once. Everyone thinks I sucked. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I'll give you the benefit of that. You're going to get beat every once in a while. I bet our guy Anthony Munoz, he had to have given up some sacks over the years, right?
I doubt it.
I mean, Joe Staley over his career had some bad moments. That's okay. I just think this one looks like Upati before he shattered his leg got beat every once in a while with like quicker, smaller guys. But I never went like, I didn't want that guy on my team, right? With McGlinchey, I've had some moments this year at right tackle where you're like, is this guy going to be the right tackle for 10 years?
Yeah.
Have they had the thought internally like, oh, do we feel great about this? Because for a fact they've had that thought. And I know he's a captain, and I know they love him because you meet him, you're like, this guy's the fucking man, you know? He just walks into a room. 1, he's huge. 2, he kind of commands a room. He's everything you look for. And this is where I think it makes it tough sometimes because what does Kyle, you think, when he fundamentally likes in players?
Well, everything you just described.
I think he likes that more than the play sometimes, or equally as much. Like, he values that as much as you can possibly value that. And we're going to get into the quarterback a little bit later. I think sometimes that can cloud him. Now, they haven't made any decision, so I'm not going to say anything, because I'll say this. They viewed Eric Armstead as more of like an upside project, when I think a lot of people didn't, and it worked.
Yeah, so I didn't think he'd become, but that was not these guys.
But I'm saying that they kept him around when I would have gotten rid of him. So it's like they have valued talent over just like the lack of production. Like they've had different elements, but I do think pretty consistently they've leaned character and sticking with guys. Maybe not sticking with guys, but leaning character stuff. And I think unlike Solomon Thomas, McGlinchey has had moments where he's been a much better player. So I do think you could just go down year, right, whatever, which I would imagine they'll do regardless how bad it gets. I just don't know how anyone, if you took a step back, couldn't be somewhat concerned with moments they've seen this year. Because it's such an important position.
Now, I would say the moments can hurt, the moments can help. Sunday Night Football, in a big moment, Chris Collinsworth goes, look at this block by Mike McGlinchey. The conversation can change, right, very quickly.
100%.
So,
well, it's why you bet on the hard-working grinders, because they're not going to tap out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to be consistent.
Good and consistent.
On the field. Yeah.